Hey everyone, this is Steve Van Diest. I am the co-host of the Sharpen podcast, brought to you by Acumen. We're a growth community for business owners and CEOs looking to sharpen, challenge themselves, scale up, talk about transition. We're doing all things business for business owners, and it's a great community. Today, we're going to talk about Goldilocks. Is it too hot? Is it too cold? Is it too firm? Is it too soft? All in the context of merger and acquisitions and preparing a business. Why am I excited about this? Well, one, we have an expert in this because he's experienced it. Dennis Corsi is a new growth catalyst with Acumen here on the Front Range. Dennis, tell us why you're qualified and how you got to this point and what brought us to today.
Well, good morning, Steve. Thanks a lot for having me on. I'm really excited to be here and share the story with you. First of all, as a growth catalyst with Acumen, I work with business owners to help them achieve extraordinary outcomes in their businesses and in their personal lives by one-on-one coaching with them, executive coaching, and through leading peer groups. So with that, I'm really excited in this next chapter of my life to pour into people's lives, but I'm also a former business owner. And having been a partner with Armstrong Consultants for 28 years, having served 11 of those as president and CEO, and having walked through the M&A acquisition process with the firm, I bring a lot of experience. And like you said, the Goldilocks story. We had some failed attempts. One was too hot, one was too cold, and ultimately one ended up being just right. So I'm excited to talk about those experiences with all the listeners today.
I love it. So first, tell me, you got some aviation themes going on behind you. Obviously, you're an aviation company, but what's the story about all the aviation world? Was it just because of your job, or was it something before?
Yeah, so growing up, coming out of high school, Top Gun came out the year that I graduated. So my vision and dream was to be a fighter pilot, test pilot, and astronaut. Went on to Boston University on an ROTC scholarship, studied aerospace engineering, came out, and unfortunately I was colorblind, so I couldn't fly. So I ended up going into airport management in the Air Force for 6 years. Got a master's degree from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University while I was in the Air Force. And then after 6 years, exited the Air Force and landed with Armstrong Consultants
Hmm.
in Grand Junction, Colorado. Now, Armstrong is a consulting engineering firm that specializes exclusively in airports, airport development. The three lines of business are airport planning, airport engineering, and airport construction administration on development projects. So I joined the firm in '96 as an entry-level airport planner. And then from there, I helped grow the airport planning practice. I became a project manager and then planning manager, department director, and then eventually vice president and president of the firm. After 3 years there, I became a partner and eventually grew my stock ownership up to 34% as the original founding owner, Ed Armstrong, and his two partners transitioned out of ownership. And the second generation of owners, me and five other partners, eventually took ownership of the firm. We did establish an ESOP, employee stock ownership plan, which all of the employees owned 30% of the company, and the rest of us owned 70% of the company. And that kind of sets the stage for the transition and the growth of the firm and the story about the acquisitions.
Okay, so before we get to the Goldilocks part and all those little micro lessons there's something here that I think is pretty good too. Because yes, in the Acumen community and those that kind of dip their toe into what we're doing and how they're growing their businesses, there's all different shapes and sizes. There are those that are second generational, they took over for a family member. There's other crazy members that say, hey, I got this a stupid idea, but I'm going to do it. And they dive in with all entrepreneur fervor and passion, and then they grow a company. Others have said, you know what, I worked for a while and I'm going to go buy one. Yours is unique as well because you don't always hear it as well. But I started off as an entry level job and I exited as CEO partner. What were some of the biggest lessons, struggles, things that you could share with the business community of Acumen about that journey from beginning to end?
It's really about communication and relationships, and that's what life is about.
Mm.
As we grew the firm, we had to make sure that we kept our eyes on the clients and on the employees. It wasn't about us as the leaders. of the firm. And that's really humility was the biggest thing.
Mm.
Anytime my pride started to take over, something happened to knock me back down. And I learned those lessons over all those years that it's really not about me. It's about having God as the foundation, Jesus Christ as the foundation, and then looking outward. It's about others, not about me. And that was the biggest lesson that I learned, whether it was working with my partners, our clients, the employees, agencies that we worked with. That was the biggest lesson.
Wonderful. Now you also have a large family. Uh, Going from that, growing a family, tell us some of the lessons and difficulties in that as well, because running a company is not easy. It's not for the faint of heart. It's a lonely place. It's a hard place. Tell us some of the things that you've learned with your growing family and all that in that context.
Yeah, that was a huge part. And that's a whole nother part of our journey and story. I have 6 kids. Two are biological with my former wife, and 4 are adopted, international. So that was a whole challenge and opportunity and an exciting journey in and of itself. But as I transitioned and took more responsibility with the firm, again, the obligations with the firm continued to increase, as well as growing the firm. So I was in a position where I was traveling quite a bit and doing a lot of business development, sitting on interview presentation panels and delivering and meeting clients and growing the business. So one thing that I was really thankful of is I eventually came back and was able to get my private pilot license, pass the FAA physical exam, and fly the company airplanes around. So a lot of my travel were one-day out and backs. I'd leave in the morning,
Mm.
fly out, have a meeting with the client, tour the airport, and then fly back and be home in time for dinner and to tuck the kids in bed at night. So I'm very thankful and was blessed because of that. There were occasional times when I had a 2 or 3 day conference or travel that had to do. So really focusing on, I don't want to say work-life balance, but more work-life integration. There are times when there are priorities and you have to pour into the job and take the time to do what's necessary with the job, and the family time may take a little bit of a sacrifice, but you also have to remember that that's for a season and that you're going to come back around, and that you don't lose sight of your priorities and your values. You have to come back to your fundamental values. And family is absolutely one of my highest priorities. Actually, my second priority behind my relationship with Jesus and my spiritual walk is my family, and then my friends and community, and then work. So really,
Cool.
but at times it ebbs and flows. There are
Hmm.
times we have to spend more time and less time than some of the others.
Okay. Top Gun reference. You've got
Yes.
Maverick, and it was Goose, right?
Yes.
Who was your goose those years? And while you're growing the business, did you have a couple gooses, geese, I guess that would be?
Yeah, it was my partners in the business, really. I had community, my family at the time were strong supporters of everything I did, for sure. Jesus is my absolute
Yeah.
goose number one, but my partners were really instrumental. We became very close, very much very family like, um, and at the same time, while we worked together, the one thing that was missing was I really didn't have a peer community group.
Hmm.
While my partners were awesome, we had different roles and responsibilities. And, there were some things I really couldn't just tear my shirt open and bare my heart to these guys, because they were business partners as
Yeah.
well. So the one thing that was lacking was really any kind of a peer group community with accountability, with vulnerability, with transparency, and the professional business experience that maybe were a few steps ahead of me that would have helped me avoid some of the landmines that I stepped on, running the business.
I can totally relate. My best friend was my business partner 14 years, and we both needed other people because we were our biggest issues. Best friends, business partners, but that became our issue. And if I'd had you in the engineering world or somebody in the marketing world or somebody in construction trades and I got to sit down with them, it would have saved me from a ton of mistakes I made and probably he made, and it would have ended up a lot differently. Now, yours ended up in an acquisition. Tell me now a little bit of that Goldilocks story. So, what first was it a goal of all of yours to say, yes, let's get acquired, let's get out? or did it shock you? Did it surprise you? Tell me how even the beginning process started in you guys' conversations.
It really was a combination of all of the above. I mentioned early on, as we took over as second generation owners, we continued to grow the firm in the early years. And we grew the firm both in top line revenue, bottom line profitability, and employees. We became very highly known in the industry, in the market, for high levels of quality and service to our clients. At the same time, we were a boutique firm where we specialized only in airports, and most of our competitors were multidiscipline firms where they did roads, bridges, highways, wastewater systems, as well as a little bit of airports on the side. So we were very lean, very efficient. We brought a very good value to our clients, and our fees were typically a little bit lower than our competitor fees, but our profitability was extremely high. Our profit margin percentages was extremely high. So as we grew the firm, we started having other firms expressed interest in us, in acquiring us. And around 2012 or so, we had one firm come to us, expressed a really strong interest in acquiring us. And, at the time, we're like, wow, this sounds great. We never really experienced this before. Let's consider what they have to offer. So we signed a non-disclosure agreement, an NDA, and started meeting with them, looking at the cultures, are the cultures a good fit? And then they asked for some due diligence documents and a long laundry list of every poking and prodding. If you think you've ever had a physical exam, take the due diligence exam. Oh my goodness. Every piece of document and information from all your client lists, all of your financials, your marketing, your contracts, your legal, personnel, everything you can imagine. You open up everything to these firms through that process. So we went through all that due diligence process. We thought we were a really good culture fit. Everything aligned. Our geographies lined up perfect. Then they came back with their opinion of value, which was far below what our expectations were. And their rationale was, you have such high profitability, we cannot continue to duplicate that once we roll you into our firm because we have a lot higher overhead structures. So we can't credit you with the same kind of profitability that you've been occurring. The multiplier factor was fine, but they took our profits from here and said they were really only here. And that wasn't going to work for us. We weren't going to give the golden goose away and give up everything that we had been working so hard for. So we had to walk away from that deal. So that was one kind of failed attempt
I think that
at the
I think
acquisition.
I agree. And I think there's a piece there, a lot of business owners, my business is worth this. And then you get into that process and you're like, wait, we think it's worth this. We've done this and it's pretty effective. Yours is interesting because I think a lot of people will overstate profits, overstate multiples. But interesting enough, you learn about what does the buyer actually think is your value. And so are you ready to step away from the table? And it sounds like you guys were. It's like, nope, that was the first step of going, this isn't right.
Yeah, it is an emotional process, and you spend a lot of time and effort to do that. It was emotional walking away, but it wasn't as the next one was, which I'll talk about. But the lesson I would say to learn from this one is, one, have a peer group that you can bounce things off of. But two, we did not hire an outside advisor through that process. Hiring an outside advisor is really important. And also look at your financials from the buyer perspective. Run a due diligence internally before you consider an acquisition or go to market, and look at it from the buyer's perspective. Knock down those quality of earnings. If you have a concentration in clients in any particular area, take those all into consideration so your expectations of value are realistic as you go forward.
Yeah. So now tell me about the next part of the story.
Yeah,
Goldilocks enters this next
so
stage.
that one is one that I would say was too cold. It wasn't hot enough for us to consider moving forward with. The next one, we continued from that point. We continued to grow the firm for 4, 5, 6 more years. We said, okay, we're going to grow this thing. We know its value. We're doing great in the market. We continued to grow the firm, brought in more employees, opened up satellite offices. We were doing great, and the ESOP was in place, and we started really looking at that point. What is the long-term strategy for ownership transition? We had 2 generations. Well, second generation of ownership, we had two age groups, I would say. Half of us were probably, I think, 10 years older than the second group. So three of us were a little older, three of us were a little younger, six partners total. So we started talking about what are our goals? What's our vision? How long are the three older guys going to stay in the company, the three younger guys? So
Mhm.
ultimately, we decided, why don't we, and we had continued to be approached by different firms uh, interested in acquiring us over the years. We said, well, we're not going to do like we did last time and just consider one opportunity. Let's hire an investment banking firm that specializes in M&A, and let's go to market with this. So we built the package. We built the marketing piece. We built all the information. We ran through all the numbers, and we had a really nice package. And we discreetly went out to market with the firm. And he contacted hundreds of other engineering firms, put it out there in a confidential way. They signed non-disclosures, and we got bids in
Hmm.
for the firm. And they varied all over the place. Some high, some low, some in the middle, some bigger firms, some smaller firms, all different ranges. So we narrowed it down to three or four of what we thought the best value, best package was, not necessarily the highest price, purchase price, but the best package. And we evaluated those, talked to those firms, and narrowed it down to one single offer that was on the table. We dove in with both feet on that offer. We knew approximately what the value range was going to be. We knew the culture fit was going to be good. We went through the whole due diligence process, which was extremely lengthy because we had the whole marketing process, which was almost a year to do, then the due diligence process, which was almost another year. So we dug through all that. We had
Hmm.
meetings, we met them, we talked about the future, what the org chart was going to look like, all of these things. And we were getting down to the 11th hour and it blew up. There were some terms of the deal, not financial, but other terms that we just couldn't live with. And the deal just blew up on us. And we walked away, they walked away. We shook hands and walked away
Hmm.
amicably, but huge disappointment on both sides. We just could not reach an agreement on these
It
terms.
stung. You could
This
you could
just
feel
wasn't
it.
going to,
It cost you money. It stung. It cost you time. It cost you
yes.
effort. That was your too hot one.
That was the too hot. It was too hot to handle. And really the lesson learned there is those 2 years we took our eye off the ball. You
Hmm.
got to continue to run the business while you're doing this. We had an outside advisor, but we were so consumed with all of the ongoings of the due diligence and talking about the deals and getting excited about the possibility of this acquisition, what it was going to mean to us as owners, to the employees as a company. We took our eye off the ball. And when the deal fell through, our revenues had gone down, our profitability had gone down. We had a lot of issues to deal with. It was really, really hard. And there was a huge amount of disappointment. The employees didn't know what was going on because it was all confidential, but the partners and the owners knew. And
Yeah.
and we held together really tight as an ownership group, but we had some work to do. And I was really struggling personally at that point.
Hmm.
Personally, professionally, the finances, with six kids, we had kids going to college and financial
Hmm.
obligations, responsibilities. We had just moved to Denver. I was really, really struggling. And at that point is where I met and engaged my coach, my
Hmm.
one-on-one personal business and life coach. Met this man, Don Scott, and for the next 2 years, we did some great work together. He helped me gain clarity.
Hmm.
He helped me deal with my anxiety, my overwhelmed feelings that I had that was going on, my mental spiraling and not obsession. I can't think of the word, but thinking about it all the time. And he helped me work through that, to clarify it, to look at reality from a business standpoint, to get back on focusing where we needed to focus. And through that experience, engagement, relationship, and the work that we did together, and through the work with my partners, the efforts my partners put in, we were then able to regrow the firm over the next 6 year. Well, next, let's see, that was next 4 years from 2018 to 22, to recover and not
Mm.
only grow the firm, but we doubled the revenues, doubled the size, doubled the footprint, and we blew through that ceiling that we were at for that acquisition and got to a whole new level. So in 22, we were faced again with the same question. How are we going to move forward? We're finally at a point where we can make some decisions. Do we want to go through that experience again? The acquisition, that was really draining and emotional. Do we want to sell internally to key employees?
Mm-hmm.
Or do we want to go 100% ESOP and sell to the ESOP and eventually have total employee ownership? And through that discussion, our intent was to go ESOP, to go 100% ESOP, to basically have the ESOP purchase the stock from the remaining owners, work out a financing deal over several years, and eventually have the firm be 100% ESOP. As we were working through that process and the documentation to do that, somebody else came knocking on our door, another investment banker representing another firm. We said, no, our mind's made up. We're done. We're not going to do that. They were extremely persistent. They would not take no for an answer and kept coming, kept coming. They said, hey, we're really, really interested in you. We're going to take care of your people. The financial piece is going to be there. You have strong value. We're sure of that. We think we can meet your expectations. At least talk to us. So we opened the door again. And so after the first one being too cold, the next one being too hot, this one turned out to be just right.
Mm.
And the culture fit was there. The value was there. The long-term plan, the expectations with the partners. Again, we had kind of two different generations of partners, and we had different needs, different desires with our non-competes, with our future roles in the new firm, the new organization, how that was going to work, our expectations on how the employees were going to be handled. Everything really came together. Now, I'm not going to say it was easy because it was very difficult. The negotiations were tight. We did start out at one place with valuation, and in going through some of the due diligence, the quality of earnings, that got chipped away a little bit. So we didn't get quite what we had, the dream that we had hoped for, but we did still get within what we thought was our window of range of value that was fair on both sides.
Mm.
And ultimately, we were able to close that deal in December of 2022.
Love
So
it.
the firm was purchased. It was quite the surprise to the employees, and I'll give the employees a lot of credit. We had to keep this confidential through the entire process and kind of sprang it on them right at the end. So there were some shocked faces in the room, but I think over time, people started to accept the concept as they started to know the new firm and their roles in the firm and how this was ultimately going to be a good thing for them overall. Also, their stock value on the ESOP shares that they owned was tremendously higher than what it was. And it wasn't going to be a long-term payout. The payout was very quick, and everybody got their funds that they needed and were able to move forward. So that ultimately, over the next year after the acquisition, I worked through the integration process for about 9 months, 10 months with that new firm. Everybody took their new roles in the organization, but there's one person who didn't have quite a square peg and a square hole fit, and that was me. As president and CEO moving forward, the new organization already had a president and CEO, leadership in those roles. We brought my partners and other up-and-comers and put them in more leadership roles. So it really provided me a great opportunity to transition from corporate world into what I'll call maybe an early retirement, if you want to call it that, from Armstrong, and gave me a runway. I love that analogy, a runway for the second half of my life, my career, my desires, my passions, and an opportunity to do the things that move from a successful business owner to something of significance where I can give back, help other business owners who are going through the same walk that I've walked for 28 years, help them avoid some of the landmines that I stepped on, and help them achieve their vision and dreams for their lives and their businesses.
Yeah, so essentially, in a couple summary points of the Goldilocks story of acquisition. One, some things I've heard. You guys started this 10 or 11, 12 years prior to actually the exit. So I want to encourage business owners from your lesson, but also what I observe in the business world is don't be set on a hard, fast time. Be very open-handed. But you need to have, the first one was we didn't have a lot of wisdom around us. We were doing it on our own. We were trying our best, and the number came back wrong, but be willing to walk away if you're not comfortable.
Mhm.
The second one, the too hot, was we had all the stuff but we can't take our eye off the ball. We still are running a business because until
Yes.
those documents are sealed and signed, I got to that point. I had a couple exits that went sour, and you just got to keep your eye on the ball. And then the third is, yes, we started being very comfortable with what we're going, and God just showed up in a different way. So there's all these pieces of this acquisition story that I think people need to relate to. Is one, being very open-handed, keep your eye on the ball in business. Timing is everything. It takes a while. And now you're in this new chapter. You're in the second half chapter. You found Acumen. What did you do in that meantime, though, before you started your Acumen journey? Because you're just launching now teams here in the Front Range in Colorado. But what were some of the things that you really did post like retirement? Were some things that were really part of your journey and your rhythm that got you ready for this next chapter with Acumen?
Yeah, Steve, you did a great job summarizing kind of the path and journey of that period of my life, that season of my life. But I'll tell you what, this last year, 11, 10, 11 months has been some of the most extraordinary, beneficial time of growth and exploration I've had in my entire life. I've taken a break, really,
Mm.
a 10-month break from everything, from the business side, from all of those responsibilities. And I've just taken a year to dig deep in my spirituality, spiritual retreats, my prayer life, my journaling
Mm.
life, my relationships and community that I didn't have. I was lacking a lot of true friendship and relationship. I had my business partners, but I didn't have a lot of true friends that I could authentic friendships. I've been spending a lot of time with my kids over the last year, and I've been spending time doing things that I absolutely love to do. I've never played more golf, hiked more 14ers, traveled, and one of the most amazing things I just did recently was walked a portion of the Camino de Santiago over in Spain. That pilgrimage is just amazing. It was an opportunity to unplug, to walk about 100 miles, 170 kilometers. I went by myself. The experience, words just cannot describe what
Mhm.
that experience was like. Between the walk itself, the people I met, the food that I got to eat, the signs and the symbols, the spiritual aspect of all the churches, and just being able to spend time with myself and contemplate and think through a lot of these things. And then coming back, landing back here, and then being mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically prepared to launch into this next journey with Acumen is so exciting. I'm just so excited to be working with you, Steve, to be part of the Acumen team, and Dan and all the other GCs, uh, and the mission, the faith foundation, but the business forward look that we have, and the goal and mission of helping other people and business owners really achieve what I've been able to call my dream in my life, carrying forward
I
is
love it.
huge.
And I got to echo the Camino de Santiago. I have walked that portion 4 times when my kids were 9 months old in a backpack, and then 3 and 1 in a baby jogger. And I took two of my pre-high school kids when they were 14 and 12, and then 5 years later we did it again with the last two. It's fabulous. My wife leaves in 1 week from to yesterday to take women. She takes women, so it's a great thing. But more than just the Camino de Santiago, and this is something to the business community I want to encourage, is there are seasons that we need to pause and stop. And if you have the privilege of having an exit and having a season, let your engine slow down so you can start to listen and process post acquisition, post merger, post whatever, so that you can then listen and respond appropriately and not doing this out of need or fear. I also saw speaking to business owners that are in the grind And if you can find time to get away, it may not be for 10 months, but if you can pull away for a Sabbath of 1 month and build a business where it's not all just based on you, but find regular rhythms once a year to pull away, not just for vacations, but for the still and slowness. I think there's a lot of what you learned in that chapter change that can be applied to any business owner, even if they haven't sold and made a merger. Dennis, now, where can we find you? Where are you in Colorado? And how can we help you?
Well, thanks, Steve. I am located in Denver, Colorado. I live in South Denver suburb. You can find me on the Acumen website, acumenimpact.com. Go to the about and you'll find my bio and ways to link and connect with me there. I'm also on LinkedIn. And if you are a business owner in the Denver area, please reach out to me, connect with me on LinkedIn or through the website. I'd love to sit down, have coffee with you. I'd love to hear your story and what's going on in your life and in your business, and to come alongside of you and help you achieve extraordinary outcomes in your life and in your business, just like I've been blessed with. So give
I
me a
love it.
shot.
I
Reach out.
love it. I'm great to be partnered with you in seeing businesses grow here in the Front Range together. Couple things. If you're a business owner, take some time off, listen, process. If you're getting ready to to have a merger or a sell, get some wise advice. And then if you're a maverick, if you're a business owner or CEO, just assume you're a maverick because you're crazy enough. You typically run pretty hot and solo. Find the other goose or geese, we'll call them now. Find your peer community, and you can do that in Acumen. Also, if you're a former business owner and you're hearing this and you're thinking, I want to do what Dennis does. I want to have that transition. I want to have that give back. I want to use all this experience of business ownership, CEO, president, all that stuff. And I want to help give back. Also hit us up because we've got a place for you to raise up a community of other business owners within Acumen. So I appreciate you, Dennis, and look forward to hearing the comments and the lessons that other people are learning from this conversation. And so thanks again, everyone, for listening. Again, you can find us at acumenimpact.com, and you can find different events coming up, happy hours, leadership events. What does it look like to become a growth catalyst, or what does it look like to be a member? And soon we'll be launching in Phoenix as well. So take a look out there. Thank you,
Thank you,
everybody.
Steve. Blessings to you and blessings to everybody out there. Have a great day.